Okay, hear me out. I know this is a touchy subject, but I wanted to talk about a few things that I haven't really seen people mentioning about this. And I think this can go towards both sides of the political spectrum. I originally wasn't going to make this video because I didn't want to piss anyone off. So please, like I said, hear me out. Don't just assume stuff right away. And also, sorry, but there won't be as many memes in this video because obviously this is a more serious topic. So our little TikTok brains are going to have to lock in for a second. There aren't going to be as many things stimulating us. First thing I wanted to talk about is the opening of doors. So with a situation like this, in my humble opinion, as a CTE'd out 24-year-old kid, all it does is open doors. So if you are pro ICE and you do believe that some of their actions this weekend are justified, or maybe you don't think it was justified, but you think there's an immigration problem, so you're going to keep your mouth shut, or whatever, right? You have to keep in mind the government likes to push boundaries, and it always has liked to push boundaries. So, undeniably, this one is on the edge if you don't already think it was a horrendous act. Like, if you don't think it was a horrendous act, you think it was they can legally justify it, whatever, you have to admit it's on the edge. It's not a clear cut thing if you do lean towards that side. And the government loves to push the boundaries. So you're opening the door for the government to continue to push that line. So if they get away with this, then next time they will try something even crazier, whether that is next month or 5 years from now. And also, just a heads up to some conservatives and stuff. I'm not going to say where most of my political backing is. I just want to say another door that's being opened is when this administration is done and they've all packed up and they've moved on, the next one can use the same tactics now. The next one can do the same things. And people are going to rally behind it because it was done to them. Meaning, if you're okay with Republicans doing this, you have to be okay with Democrats doing this in the future because they might. Or you'll get a different Republican in and they will do something similar, if not more, because the government likes to push boundaries. And you notice I keep saying government, and that's because I like to look at politics sometimes as it's the government. There's three bodies of power in the US, and that's the government, the people, and billion-dollar corporations. Okay? Those are the three power sources that kind of run everything. I know there's Republicans and there's Democrats, and people disagree on how certain things should be solved, whether it's taxes, the border, gun rights, all that, right? But at the end of the day, it is just the government. Whether there's Democrats in control or Republicans, it is the government. And I hate to say it, the government is not always your friend. Okay? So look at this as this is the government doing this, not, oh, this is my side doing it, so therefore it's okay. But if the left did it, then it'd be bad, or vice versa, because I will say the left is very hypocritical as well. Everybody is. That's just how we work, right? As a species, we are insanely hypocritical, not just with politics. But please try to look at these conversations as it is the government, not Republicans, not Democrats, it's the government. So now looking at it through that lens, you are saying it's okay for the government as a whole to make decisions like that and to use lethal force in those situations, no matter if it's the left or the right in power at the time. You are also saying it is okay for the government to lie about specific details. I see a lot of right wingers overlooking that, right? The fact that they are blatantly kind of lying about how it went down and impeding investigations. You have to be okay with the left doing that now if you're going to support this, because the government is one entity and they are now pushing the boundary to do this. And like I said, they like to always push it. So next time they will use lethal force with even less resistance. or they will lie about something even more blatantly. It's just how things work. There's always a grab for power as a whole for the government, no matter who's in office. The other thing I don't really see getting discussed during all of this is the celebration of death, especially the celebration of death of Americans. I see a lot of people making memes about the lady that got shot or the man that just got shot as well, and they keep saying, well, you guys made fun of Charlie Kirk, and so therefore now I'm going to celebrate death because these people celebrated death. And it's just this aggressive chain of we're going to celebrate death, we're going to celebrate death, we're going to celebrate death until we completely dehumanize each other, which is really bad. At the end of the day, no matter how you see these politics, we should not celebrate the death of our own people, let alone anyone ever. There's very few people throughout history that their death should have been celebrated compared to the amount of people to have ever existed. So with that, I think there needs to be a strong push to stop the celebration of death, not just because it's gruesome and it kind of divides people, but it also desensitizes people. It makes people desensitized to the other side, and they believe that the other side starts to deserve it. And when you start to believe that a side deserves that type of violence and you dehumanize people and all that stuff, that's how you end up with really bad scenarios throughout history. When one group or two groups start seeing each other as less than human and making fun of their deaths and thinking their deaths should be celebrated, it ends poorly. It ends poorly for everyone, not just the victor. It just ends poorly for whatever country or countries that is happening in. So that needs to stop. The celebration of death of civilians, like it just doesn't make sense to me to laugh at it, to think it's funny. I'm not going to get into details of what I think is deserved or not deserved, but let's say that lady in the car did have mental illness and she was a problem or whatever, right? I've heard rumors that she was abusive to her kids. Let's say all that. To celebrate and make memes, though, of somebody getting shot in the head is just awful. And like I said, it dehumanizes the other side. The same thing happened with Charlie Kirk. People celebrated it. They made memes about it. They desensitized themselves to the video. You're dehumanizing the other side, and it just always ends poorly. And if you want to add on to the fact that this is a problem with the government exerting too much power over its people, when we start to fight as a people and hate each other, the government can get away with more. Now they know people celebrate when political speakers get fucking nuked live on camera. People know that when federal agents will use lethal force, there are people celebrating. So that also gets thrown in. The last thing I want to talk about that people kind of have talked about, though, is as a gun owner, right? This is the biggest attack on the Second Amendment I think I have ever seen. I get I'm young and I get that I'm not educated on this, right? I'm not fucking going to school for politics in any way, but I can look at this and see the fact that this guy legally owned a firearm, had no prior criminal record, and he brought a concealed weapon that he had a permit to, never reached for it, but their reasoning for shooting him was him just having it. And they said you should never bring a gun here or to a protest or do this or that. That is a blatant and utter attack on Second Amendment rights. In America, if you have a permit and your state allows you to carry, you are allowed to carry that gun. So to just say, well, that's the risk, like him carrying the gun. Who carries a gun to a protest? Who carries a gun on the side of the street? Where else are you going to conceal carry? Is it only at Aldi? Do we put our guns away when we're walking down the street and then we just like pull them out and holster them as we're going into Aldi? No, you're going to carry the gun, and he was allowed to carry the gun, and you can't execute somebody over that. So it really upsets me, all these people that claim to be 2A promoters. They're proud to be, defending the Second Amendment. Why are we not calling them out? Even if you don't disagree with the use of force, why are we not calling them out for saying that it's okay because he had a gun that he was illegally allowed to carry? You should be calling that out, whether you think this whole thing was downright evil or if you thought that it was justified. This, your Second Amendment right, you should be calling them out for that. You should be saying, hey, he's allowed to do that. Stop bringing it up. because it does not play a factor. Him legally carrying a firearm shouldn't be called crazy in any way. And lastly, since I've kind of called out conservatives and liberals, the centrists, the people in the middle trying to stay low key, they're saying, what'd you expect in this chaos, right? All this shit going down. Well, it's kind of not surprising that they shot, there's all this chaos, all these people, there's guns, stuff like that. If we shouldn't be surprised that somebody got shot in a high stress scenario that way, then we shouldn't be surprised that the guy that accidentally shot him gets charged for murder. If I'm in a high stress scenario and I think someone's breaking into my house and I shoot a family member on accident, I would get charged with murder. So the federal agent that accidentally shot this man shouldn't be surprised if he gets charged with murder, right? That's the last thing I want to put out there. I'm sorry if this video pissed some of you off. Like I said, I really didn't plan on making it, but I just keep seeing people talk about the logistics of it, of like, oh, he had his hand here, he did this. I want to talk more about the social issues of it, and so I decided to crank my 4 brain cells together and make this video.